Hey there! In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a 7-man AI agent team that can fully manage and automate your email newsletter. This is a no-code system that's tied into lots of different software platforms, which gives it huge capabilities. It's headed up by the newsletter director agent, who you can communicate with via WhatsApp or Telegram. I usually just send voice notes and then it replies with voice notes as well. But you can also send it text or you can even send it images. From there, he actively coordinates and orchestrates the work with his team. So he's got 6 agents that work underneath him. So the research agent, for example, can carry out general research through Google search, as well as fetching specific web pages content. But then you can also provide these agents with more specialized tools. So in this video, I'm building out a real estate newsletter, and I've armed this research agent with a specific tool that allows it to check recent transactions based on a property's address through the property price register. So this is where AI agents really come into their own, where you can provide them custom tools like that to meet a specific need. So once the research is complete, the director can then coordinate with the writer agent, who can create engaging newsletters or social media posts. This specific agent is using Claude Sonnet 3.5, and I have it prompted so that it actually generates content in your own tone of voice. Once the copy for the newsletter is created, the director can then coordinate with the publisher agent, who can, number one, generate AI images for the specific newsletter, or they can fetch stock images that might be more appropriate. And number two, it can then draft the ConvertKit email. So this system is integrated into ConvertKit. I've done a previous video where I've integrated a system into MailChimp. So this agent is able to transform the text from the writer agent into HTML, and then it's able to inject that into the ConvertKit template, creating the draft. And then there's also a tool where it can request the publication of that email to the audience. Now, we don't give it direct access to publish emails. We have built a safeguard feature in place, which I'll talk about in a second. And the beauty of using a platform like ConvertKit is that it's very easy to monetize the list. You're able to embed calls to action for purchases or subscriptions, whereas systems like MailChimp don't necessarily like a lot of affiliate links kind of spread across their emails. If you're looking for real-time updates on how broadcasts are doing with your audience, the analytics agent has a number of tools where you can get the various stats on open rates, click-through rates, the growth of your list, and all of that based off a date range within the system. The social media agent is hooked up to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So whether it's related to an email broadcast or not, you're able to build your audience on these platforms through this AI agent team. The research agent will be sending you updates every morning on news in the specific area. So you can then ask the director agent to draft a Facebook post, for example, to pull an image from a stock photography website or generate an AI image, and then post that to Facebook. And again, you get to approve that before it's sent. And finally, I put in a subscriber manager agent because there's obviously a lot of work in maintaining the list. I've given it a single tool so far, which is simply to unsubscribe a user, but this could be expanded out depending on the amount of API access you have into your email marketing system. So back to the social media agent and the publisher agent. And I know what you're thinking. Do you really trust these agents to publish the right content at the right time to your audience? So in short, I don't trust them. AI agent systems in particular have the capacity to go haywire. Even in building this system, I accidentally triggered 150 executions of a scenario on make.com. So that could be 150 posts on Facebook, for example. So you absolutely shouldn't give AI agents access to publish to your audience without some level of approval. So from here, that's where I've built in this agent safeguard system. And what it means is the agents are only allowed the ability to request the publication of content to your channels. They can't actually publish it themselves. And by triggering the request, you then get a WhatsApp message, which bypasses the agent completely. They have no visibility of this. And it says, we've received the request. You can view the draft here, so you can actually see what is going to be pushed to your audience. And you can click the link to approve. Only when you click that link will it actually be sent to your audience. And that link then expires after 2 hours if you don't click it in time. And this is the example with the Facebook post, where at least you can see what it is that they're proposing to post. Because there is only so far you can go with prompt engineering when it comes to AI agents. You need a hard stop, a hard safeguard to make sure that they can't go haywire. So the real benefit of this system is convenience. It puts your very own newsletter director one voice note away, as you can see here. And from there, you can trigger tools across a wide range of platforms and software. And as well, it's all done through natural language, so you can just have a conversation with it. The possibilities with the system are endless because through the use of these tools, this can be customized to any use case. Here I create a real estate email newsletter where I create specific tools for scraping real estate listings, performing a deep analysis to figure out what actually is a worthwhile investment for investors. And as you can see, this isn't just your standard plain text kind of auto-generated email newsletter. This is a media-rich newsletter that also has monetization, as I mentioned. So you can push subscriptions, you can push ebooks, and really make the most of your audience. This one is the highly structured email. Here's an example of an opinion piece or news insights email, which is based off some breaking news in this area. I've actually spent weeks building this, and I've tested out lots of different no-code multi-agent platforms, including Relevance AI, including Flowwise's multi-agent system. And by far, the most reliable results I got was by using N8N. And they have AI agents, they have LangChain AI agents as part of the core system, but then as tools, you can call other workflows or other agents. So you're able to have a hierarchical nested structure of agents. And then because their system is so flexible around the execution of workflows, you don't really end up with timeouts as you're calling the different agents. So I've been super impressed by N8N's AI agents, and it really has been miles better, in my opinion, than what Relevance AI offer out of the box. I'm going to go into more detail on the comparison between the different no-code multi-agent tools in a different video. The beauty of an architecture where you have discrete tools plugged into an agent means that the tools can actually be anywhere. They could just be calling APIs directly. They could use different integration platforms. So a lot of what I've built in this video is actually on make.com, whereas the actual agents themselves are on N8N. Of course, it all could have been built on N8N, but within the AI Automators community, we have a huge amount of micro templates built on make.com. And with these microservices style tools, all of these can just be plugged into N8N agents. So it's a fantastic system design, and it really makes things quite scalable. In this video, I'm going to show you a demo of this AI agent team in action, end-to-end, from researching a topic all the way to publishing an email broadcast and promoting it on social media. And then I'll go into more detail on the high-level architecture, and then we'll go step by step through each agent and how it's set up and how you can set it up yourselves at home. This entire system is available in the AI Automators community, so the link's in the description below, where you're going to get access to the main N8N agent blueprints. You'll get access to all of the make scenarios, as well as detailed instructions on how to set it all up. We also have regular workshops. We have a very active discussions board where you'll get hands-on support and advice from myself and Alan, who run this community. So by signing up and with the blueprint in hand, all you need to do is plug in your email marketing system, plug in your social media accounts, and away you go. So to kick off our demo, I'm just going to drop a voice note. Hey, could you carry out research on the latest state of play in the Dublin real estate market, specifically the South Dublin market? Thanks. So there's the response through here on the research. And then, yeah, if we can play it here.
Here's a summary of the latest trends and developments in the South Dublin real estate market based on recent articles.
So what you can see here is, because I have communicated via a voice note, it has responded with the voice note, but also with text, because I want the ability to click through on links. So there we go. There's the 5 top stories, let's say. So what we'll do is let's track this now on N8N. So this is the main scenario. So let's just have a quick look at this. We have our WhatsApp trigger. There's different triggers for this scenario, which is just a beautiful feature of N8N. And then this is the meat and drink of the AI agent team. And then at the other side, we have the WhatsApp response and generating that. So what we'll do is let's zoom in here and we'll test the workflow, and just so that you can see how it's able to flow through the different nodes. Okay, that's waiting for a trigger. Yeah, that second article that you found looks very interesting. Can you get the writer to draft an article for this, draft a newsletter for this, and let's see how it looks. And actually, can you also get the an AI image generator for this at the same time? So here we're going to be able to see kind of the concurrency where the AI agent is able to call multiple tools at the same time. There you go. So it's calling the writer agent and the publisher agent simultaneously. So the tools calling agent can do it in parallel, or it can do it consecutively. It just depends on the request. And the publisher agent has returned with the image. Writer agent is still working away. As I mentioned, the writer agent is built on Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So it's going to be written in the tone of voice of the publication, which I have as kind of a conservative viewpoint. all about return on investment, but all of that can be put in the system prompt. Okay, so here's our response, and there's our image. Very good. So that is an AI image, I believe.
The newsletter draft based on the Dublin Real Estate Forecasts article is ready. Here's the content.
So yeah, you get the full email via audio as well because you triggered it via audio. And as you can see, there's a little bit of style to the text that could be toned up or toned down as you need. So let's just do one thing which some other multi-agent systems like Relevance AI can't do, which is let's get it to edit and refine the text. Yeah, that's great. Can you maybe remove the last 2 sections? And then also, could you change the title to something a little bit more engaging and maybe change the opening paragraph as well, but leave everything else the same. Excellent. So there's our changes. We have a changed introduction and some changes made at the bottom as well. Okay, can you now have this drafted on ConvertKit and send me the link, please? So what it's now going to do is it's going to hit a scenario that it's going to generate HTML. It's using O1 at the moment. Interested to try to change that to DeepSeek R1 because it'll probably be a lot cheaper and probably be as good. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is interesting, and I want to leave this in because not everything that you do with an AI agent or an AI agent team is going to go to plan. It's the same as talking to ChatGPT. Sometimes it just doesn't do what you want it to do. This is different to a traditional sequential automation where you get the thing working 99% of the time or 100% of the time the way you want. This is dealing with natural language, and it's how the large language model interprets your requests. So I know that it can directly generate this link. So I'm just going to try and reword it. Yes, can you speak to the publisher agent and use this text to generate a ConvertKit draft email, please? And actually, it might be that the publisher agent doesn't know it provides a link because that's the tool output. So maybe that's it. All right, here we go. It's worked. So we could probably fix this up a little bit in terms of the prompt engineering around the newsletter director and the tools for the publisher. But there's no way to get it 100% right. It's just the nature of AI agents. So you kind of need to work around their quirks. So, okay, here is our draft newsletter. Let's have a look. Great, yeah, we have our subject line. We have our image in there. Excellent. There are the various headings and sections. And then this is now boiled into the template is our kind of monetization, triggering people to download an ebook. So that's kind of a nice touch with Kit as well. Great, so let's go back now to our newsletter director. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. So yeah, let's publish it. Okay, so I've sent that request. It should hit the publisher agent. Okay, here we go. This is the agent safeguard. So this is the safety net. This is to stop your agent accidentally automatically publishing the email 20 times to your subscriber base and resulting in a flood of unsubscribes. So the agent safeguard stops the agent from publishing it. And then you can see the request to publish has been received. Check your WhatsApp to approve. So again, there's a link for you to review the email. And then when you click the link to approve it, we'll do that there. And this is the agent safeguard. We've published the email newsletter. And then I actually clicked that twice and it's saying you're trying to publish something that was already published. So that has worked perfectly. Now let's go into the inbox. And there we go. That has automatically appeared. The property gold mine, there's our image. We have our sections. We have our monetization. Happy days. That's great. Now, so let's reach out to our audience on social and push this news story, but then also say subscribe to our list as a call to action. So we'll come back in here. Hey, could you maybe draft a Facebook post for this and maybe have the call to action as subscribe to our newsletter for more updates? Okay, that's gone. Okay, here we go. This is and there's the problem, right? And it's either a problem with my prompting or it's just the nature of AI agents. I've asked it to draft it. I didn't want it to send the thing, but it's actually, the safeguard has stopped it sending it to Facebook. We've received a request to publish to Facebook, but I haven't even looked at the thing yet. So, we're heavy on emojis and icons. So I'm not happy with that. I want to kind of remove this a little bit. It's too long. So, okay, let's go back to this. Yeah, I don't want you to send it. I want you to just draft the text and give it to me for approval, please. Also, please remove all of the emojis. I'm happy with the call to action, but can we maybe reduce the word count as well? Okay, here we are, draft post. Link to subscribe is obviously missing. So can you remove the link to subscribe, insert subscription link? Actually, sorry, don't remove it. Just put in www.theaiautomators.com. Everything else is perfect. So this is great. You can actually have a back and forth with it, knowing that it's not going to accidentally send the post to Facebook. And because the publisher agent and the writer agents have memory of their conversations with the newsletter director, when we say make some changes, it knows what we're talking about. Brilliant. There's the link to subscribe. Yeah, that looks great. So perfect. Can you now post that to Facebook and also use the image that we used for the email template or the email newsletter? So now we should get the agent safeguards triggering. Okay, here we go. So now let's click the link. Yeah, image is good. All of that's good. A little bit of a wall of text. I don't know how it's going to render in terms of format, but we'll see. Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's click the link to approve. So that's approved, and now we're going to get a confirmation from the agent safeguard. Brilliant. And then we can click on the link. So here we go. There's the AI automators, and excellent. Yeah, format's not great. I think that's probably Markdown, which hasn't really translated into Facebook. So maybe a little bit of messing with the prompts. Can you alter the format? You're using Markdown, but Markdown doesn't work on Facebook. So just have new lines, I suppose. Yeah, that's better. That's way better. That's way better. Yeah, publish that to Facebook. So with the same image. Thanks. Okay, there's our agent safeguard again. Still happy with the image. Yeah, that's good. So then we click the link to approve. And then we get our confirmation. Perfect. Open it up. Yeah, that's definitely a lot better. Perfect. And there's the link. So let's test out some of the analytics features. Could you give me a rundown on how the last email that we sent out is performing, please? Okay, there we go. 2 recipients. So this is clearly a test account. 50% open rate, because I only opened it on one of my inboxes. So great. And finally, could you give me a rundown of the subscriber rate of my entire list? So this is all down to the APIs that your email marketing system has. So with ConvertKit, you get access to these kind of stats APIs, and then you can just plug them in as tools. They're only reading, so you don't need to confirm anything the way we're doing with the safeguard up here. Perfect. Yeah, there's the growth statistics too again, but you get the idea. The other thing with N8N is that you also get a native chat interface. So this is also triggering the newsletter director agent. Can you provide some research on today's news in the Dublin real estate market? So it doesn't have the ability to drop in voice notes, or I don't think you can do images either, but it's still quite a nice kind of console if you didn't want to use WhatsApp. Telegram is another approach as well that we're currently adding to the system. Alan has a couple of videos where he talks through how to integrate Telegram into automations. So definitely check out those videos on our main channel and on our second channel. Okay, so yeah, there you go. You can see the news and you can take it from there. So that's just another interface into the newsletter director agent and his team of agents to manage your email newsletter system. All right, so let's have a quick overview of the high-level architecture. So as I mentioned, primary kind of newsletter director is our kind of main point of contact and the coordinator. This is running off GPT-4o. I'm really interested to try DeepSeek on this, be it R1 or version 3. So that's something I'm going to play with soon. The triggers then, we've looked at WhatsApp and we've looked at this N8N chat. Telegram, as I mentioned, has been added. Then also a schedule and webhook can also trigger this. And this is where things get very interesting, because it doesn't have to be proactively you talking to the director. It could be a scheduled task that pings the director to do something, or it could be an incoming system triggering this via a webhook. So I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but that's really exciting actually what you can do there. And then the AI agent team then works its magic, figures out what to do or does the thing, and then it responds via WhatsApp, Telegram, or N8N chat, or it doesn't respond at all if it's an autonomous kind of agent system, which this isn't. Okay, so then we have 7 agents. There's 24 tools in total, 17 of which are accessible by these agents. So if we're to look at the research agent first, this research agent has the ability to carry out a Google search. This is using the Data for SEO platform, which is a lot cheaper than the likes of SERP API. This can also carry out kind of general organic searches and news searches. We then have a fetch webpage markdown tool. This is using Gina.ai, which is a fabulous platform. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Essentially, if you put or.gina.ai in front of any URL, it'll spit out the markdown, which is brilliant. And then that's kind of readily accessible for the agent to use. And then these are kind of general tools that any use case could use. Specific to the real estate example, I have this kind of specific tool to check the property price register. So this provides transaction level detail down to the street level of properties in Ireland. So this is perfect for this type of real estate newsletter system. Obviously, it's irrelevant for any other type of system, but it's just to prove that you can really kind of customize these agents with kind of custom tools. So then onto the writer agent, we're using Claude 3.5 Sonnet here. We've loaded in a tone of voice into the system prompt of 3.5 Sonnet. So that's how it's kind of outputting in that style. We are given the ability to fetch web page content or the markdown, because we were finding examples where the newsletter director wasn't relaying the full research to the writer. They were kind of summarizing it. So instead now what we're doing is we're getting the newsletter director to provide the URL, and then the writer can check it out themselves and use that then when writing the content. That's worked very well for us. The other thing I meant to say is temperature is crucial here. You need randomness to be at a low level for certain agents because you need them to trigger the right tools, in inverted commas. So you need to keep the temperatures low on these ones. The writer agent doesn't have a lot of tools and needs a little bit of flair and randomness, so it's okay to have that a bit higher. We initially had a lot more tools at the writer's disposal that we actually took off him because he wasn't using them properly because he was a bit too creative. The publisher agent then has the ability to generate AI images, has the ability to fetch stock images by passing in a search term. Again, Alan has 2 different videos on our deep dive channel using Wikipedia Commons and using Pixabay. So the beauty of this, again, you can just plug and play those scenarios, plug and play those automations in as tools, and away you go. The publisher agent then can draft and publish ConvertKit emails, and that's what I showed you in the demo. That's specific to the kind of ConvertKit API. I've done a video on this channel where I've integrated into MailChimp. They have an API where you can draft and publish emails as well. So specific to email marketing systems. So if you're not using either of those, I do recommend checking out the API docs of your own email marketing system. The analytics agent then, again, very specific to ConvertKit's kind of API endpoints, but these could be kind of swapped out for your own email marketing systems endpoints if you're not on ConvertKit. The social media agent then triggers different scenarios to post to different platforms, be it Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn. I demonstrated that earlier. And finally, the subscriber manager agent has this kind of single feature of unsubscribing users, but there could be a whole lot more here in terms of kind of segment management, moving people in and out of different segments depending on different criteria and stuff. So there's a lot you can do. So those are the tools, and those are the sub agents or the worker agents for the newsletter director. Then I was talking about the schedule and the webhook, and this is where things get interesting because this agentic hierarchical structure is very fluid. If you ask it to do something 10 times, it might do it differently 10 times. It might call different tools depending on how it feels, how the randomness setting is in the LLM. So I think just to set expectations, the expectation of an agentic system like this is you need to have a back and forth like I just did on WhatsApp to really get the most from the system. Now, that doesn't work for everything. There is room in this type of system for your much more sequential automated workflows. And that's where the schedule and the webhooks kick in. So for the real estate example, the whole idea of kind of creating a real estate email was actually proposed by one of our community members in our automation requests board. And he specifically asked for real estate. So that's kind of where I started with this. And I created this highly sequential flow to generate investor insights. And what it does is it scrapes real estate listings from a particular website. It imports them into Airtable. It uses AI to kind of extract out entities or the data of those real estate listings, which then is all fed into another LLM agent to carry out property valuation analysis to figure out what actually is good value or what is not good value of 100 properties, let's say. And then another step generates kind of the investor insights, which is the text to go into our weekly roundup of real estate properties. And then another tool drafts the email on ConvertKit. So this kind of highly sequential workflow would never be possible. Like you'd never be able to do it as part of your kind of hierarchical system. You could do it, but it would do it differently every week. And that's not what you want. You want the thing working exactly the same every week. So this runs every week at 11 a.m. And the output of this is a message into the newsletter director from this webhook. So it's actually make.com triggering the webhook to say, we've finished the actual analysis, we've crunched the numbers, we've scraped the data, and of the 100 listings that have been kind of put up on the market in the last 7 days, these are the top 5, and here's why. So that's just sent directly then to WhatsApp because the email's already been drafted on ConvertKit, and then the link has been sent where you can log in and you can make some changes and then just get the director to send it out. So that's a perfect example of how your much more sequential automated workflows can still fit in with a much more dynamic kind of agentic kind of team structure. I also have one other sequential automation, which is for structured news research. I run this every morning with this system, and that's going to ping me at 10 a.m. every morning with the roundup of the real estate news, but not a kind of a perplexity, give me the news. It's a much more refined, structured report that's generated, and you know you're not missing anything. So yeah, that's the system. And because all of this is built on N8N, you can use whatever LLM you want. N8N is a fantastic platform. It can be self-hosted, so you can use this locally. You can use Olama and any of the various open source packages. As long as they support tool calling, you'll be able to use them. Then in terms of remote options, you'll see that I have OpenAI and Claude 3.5 Sonnet in this. Some of the tools use O1 as well, but you could swap these out on N8N using DeepSeek and using OpenRouter or their API. You could swap them out for Google Gemini. You could swap them out for Grok, which has fantastic inference speeds. So you have huge amounts of flexibility with N8N in this regard. Then in the terms of the tool calling, this kind of microservices architecture is fabulous. It's not this monolithic kind of scenario or workflow where if one thing breaks, the whole thing falls over. You have lots of different microservices, and they could be plugging directly into kind of APIs, the likes of, ConvertKit or MailChimp, or they could plug into the likes of integration platforms. So most of the tools in this are built on Make.com, but they could easily have been built on N8N or Zapier or whatever integration platform that you want. The other option then you have is actually to code your microservices on JavaScript, on Dino, on Python, whatever it is, and then host it on any of the kind of the serverless cloud platforms. But from a no-code perspective, the integration platforms that I mentioned or using the direct APIs is definitely the way to go. As I mentioned, on the community, we have a huge amount of these like plug and play kind of systems. So we have a micro template section where we have lots of different templates that you can use. These are all on our deep dive with the AI Automators channel as well, so you can see exactly how they work. But you can cherry pick various kind of scenarios that you might want to give, a capability that you want to give the agent, plug it in as a tool, and then off they go with very little changes. You effectively just need to add a webhook at the start and a webhook response at the end. You saw the agent safeguard in action. Alan has a video on this on the main channel as well, but this really stops in its tracks any kind of haywire situation where an automation or an AI agent team is getting out of control. During the 2 weeks I spent building this, I tested out Flowise multi-agent, which is brilliant actually. It's not suitable really for this use case, but at one point, it got stuck in a loop, and the actual team generated 150 requests to a scenario in 5 minutes. That could easily have been in production where just something glitches and it triggers 150 posts to Facebook or 150 emails to your list, which is a catastrophic failure. So that's why this agent safeguard we think is such a good idea, and not enough people are kind of talking about building these kind of security mechanisms in place to stop bugs kind of getting out of control within the code. And then in reality, how that works is there's a request publication scenario and an approve publication scenario. And the request, all it's doing is it's adding the request to a data store, or it's just persisting it somewhere. It's pinging you the link on WhatsApp. And then when you click that link, it goes through the approval publication flow to actually send it out on Facebook in this case. But the key here is there is no large language model anywhere here. The agent has zero visibility of this. It has zero visibility of the link. So there's no way that the agent could accidentally approve the Facebook publication. And then that's the same for publishing the email newsletter or any of the kind of the social posts. So then all of the agents are hosted on N8N. We have our main newsletter director agent and all of the various sub-agents. So I'm going to go through those in a couple of minutes. So as I mentioned, we have 24 different scenarios all on Make.com, and they all have webhooks at the start and responses at the end. And again, everything is up on the AI Automators community. So you'll be able to access the agent blueprints on N8N. You'll be able to get the make scenarios along with the detailed instructions on getting set up. And finally, just to kind of reiterate on the tools, we have our general tools that would work for any kind of use case, but these specialized tools, you can really build and make them your own. So we have this property price register one, which is quite a simple one. It's just hitting the URL and scraping the contents. The more structured research one is here, which uses data for SEO, and it kind of iterates through and summarizes and comes up with kind of trends and insights. And then our much more kind of complex workflow around generating the weekly picks is spread across 6 scenarios and an Airtable base. And there's just a lot of complexity to this, but it just goes to show you how custom you can make your AI agents if you give them either the right tools or you can trigger your agent with the right things. Great, so let's dive into N8N and let's have a look at some of these agents. If you've never heard about N8N, it's a low-code integration and automation platform. It's similar to make.com. It's low code though, as opposed to no code. So you can inject JavaScript at certain points. Generally, this system is no code. There's the odd sprinkling of JavaScript, but it's nothing massive. I've gotten ChatGPT to generate most of it anyway. So, I don't think it's a massive barrier to actually getting a system like this up and running. So here is the list of agents. Quick point to note is that I only have one agent active. So within N8N's pricing, you only get 5 active workflows at the starter plan, which sounds bad. But in reality, for this system, you only need one workflow active, and that's the main agent. All of the calls to other workflows within this main director agent, those workflows don't need to be active. So that's fabulous. And if you're building tools on N8N, they also can be inactive. And there's an unlimited amount of tools then that you could create. So let's start with the newsletter director agent. This is the most complex one because it's dealing with the triggers and the responses. So if we come in here, first up we have our WhatsApp trigger. I'm going to do a video dedicated to this. I'm not going to go through it today because there's just a lot in it, and setting up WhatsApp for Business is a bit of a pain as well. But effectively what's happening here on the left-hand side, similar to my previous kind of diagram, we have all of our triggers, which goes into the agent team, and we have all of our responses. So just to go back to the triggers, the easiest one is the chat trigger. That's what you can see here. And if I just say, hi, that's going to trigger, hello, how can I assist you? You can see that it's flowed down through this path, and it hasn't used any sub-agents because it doesn't need a sub-agent to answer that question. And then it's just outputted the response there as well. So similar to that, the webhook trigger, which we can externally hit the agent, just gets fed straight into the set message, and then that gets sent into the AI agent as well. So simple as for the moment. For the WhatsApp trigger, this is tied in the WhatsApp for Business platform, and then anytime a message comes in, it's going to ping this. It does send a lot of messages, so there's a need to filter out different types of messages, which is what we do there. And then we kind of split tracks. So if it's a text message from WhatsApp, it just goes straight to set the message. If it's an audio message, we need to actually download the audio and transcribe it. If it's an image, we need to download it and analyze it. And then all of that gets fed back into the set message, which then goes into the AI agent. So if I just click on the AI agent here, we can have a quick look at the system message. And effectively what we're doing is we're saying that you are the newsletter director agent that's responsible for managing and supervising all worker agents or worker agent tools in this system. And then what we do is we list out the tools. Now, you don't normally need to do this, but the reason I'm doing it here is I want to inform the newsletter director what tools the sub-agents have. And that's not necessarily something that kind of comes out of the box with kind of tools. So here I'm saying the research agent can check Google, can fetch a web page, and can query the property price register. So then it's a case of, well, what's your main task? So you'll notice that we're using Markdown here, and Markdown is easily understandable by LLMs, so I do recommend using that. So your primary focus is to delegate tasks to the appropriate agent tool, verify the quality of their work, and request revisions when necessary. And you are the sole communication link with the user. I then pass the current date and time, really important. Like if you're asking for the latest news, the LLM's training data is probably up to the middle of last year, so it'll be well out of date if you don't tell it the date and time. So that's important. Then I have an area for standard operating procedures. I only really build this out in testing based off if the LLM is going down the wrong track. Sometimes too much information is a problem. So sometimes it's better to start smaller and then build it up as you go kind of iteratively with testing. Then I do have a specifics area where I try to put the most important things in. There's a few prompt engineering hacks here, like, it's really important for my career that you do X if you really wanted to do something. And this is the nature of AI agents. You are prompting them, you're not coding them. So they're not always going to do what you're asking. So you need to kind of encourage them to do it. So that's the system message. The text then, that's essentially, I'm just aggregating the text either from the webhook trigger, the WhatsApp message, or the chat message. We're using a tools agent because we really want them to call the right tools. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the AI agent. So then what is connected here? So firstly, there's a chat model. So if we open this one up here, we have our OpenAI chat model. We're using GPT-4o. I've set the temperature at 0. I don't want this newsletter director getting creative. Like, he needs to just call the right tool at the right time. So I would definitely recommend that. We then have memory, and memory is crucial to this entire system working. And it's the biggest problem with other multi-agent systems. Relevance AI's multi-agent system has no memory. Every time the supervisor agent talks to a worker agent, it's a new conversation. So you can't ask them to kind of refine text because they don't even know what text you're talking about, because it's a new conversation. So memory is such a big deal. So we're using this Windows buffer memory, which is essentially just what's stored locally on the server here. And we're setting a memory ID because if it's from WhatsApp, it's going to be the phone number of the person calling or texting. Whereas if it's through the end-to-end chat, there's kind of your own like session ID that you can see there. So we set that there. And then that's what's used as the key. You can track the conversation history. And this is a brilliant parameter in end-to-end, the context window length. How many interactions are you going to show? And here I've set it to 10. So this is brilliant because you don't want it being endless. If it's endless, it's going to cost a fortune to run the system because you're going to hit 128,000 tokens and every single message will cost you the equivalent of 128,000 tokens. So you do need to set a realistic kind of conversation length. And I find 10 isn't actually half bad. 10 is decent, but you could change that as you want. And then from there, then we're just setting all of the different agents. So here we have the research agent. Let's jump into him. And what we do is we explain, now I am showing the available tools again there, but just to reiterate what this agent can do, because you need to provide in natural language what these sub-agents can do. And then this triggers this newsletter or this research agent workflow. And another brilliant N8N feature is workflow inputs. Now, Make.com has scenario inputs. So it's the same thing, but the difference is in Make.com, you don't really have AI agents. Here you do. So by having a workflow input, it's like a conversation template. It's basically saying to the newsletter director that if you want to talk to the research agent, you need to provide this information. So here it's just the message and the session ID. But if we jump into, let's say, the writer agent, I'm forcing the newsletter director to provide URLs, and I'm forcing it to provide background research. So that way, if the research agent is kind of figuring stuff out by Google search, by crunching the numbers, whatever it is that it's doing, the newsletter agent has to relay that in this field. And then also provide URLs so that the writer agent can go and independently get that information, get it from the horse's mouth, and then use that when formulating the content. So yeah, really nice feature here of N8N. And then the description for the writer agent, as you can imagine, is all about kind of facilitating the creation of written content. I don't get into too much detail here. That's actually, initially this guy was generating images, but we removed it from him because he wasn't doing a good job. But yeah, we don't get into too much detail here. It's just to give the newsletter director a flavor of what this guy can do. So that's him. The publisher agent, again, a bit of a flavor as to the creation of images, drafting of emails on ConvertKit, and again, passing the various workflow inputs. Analytics agent, the same. Social media agent, the same. I needed to guide the social media agent a bit more. So I make him fill out the platforms to post on, the post types and the image URLs, because he was just not relaying enough information. And that's worked really well, as you saw in the demo. Also, if you're deep in N8N, this is a great function, which is the from AI, and then you can provide a description of what you want it to actually spit out. It's a really good function. Great, so that's it. There's all of the sub-agents. And then if we come over here, the sub-agents will generate out whatever it is you need generated or whatever it is you need actioned. It then goes into the response. And then if it was just a chat message to start, from the console down here or from the standalone console, then you'll get the response there. Whereas if it came through WhatsApp, then it goes through another flow to basically generate audio if a voice note was sent, or if it's just text, it just sends the text. Or also, if images are actually being provided, we have another kind of a function called to a GPT-4o mini, just to extract out image URLs from the message. That way we can upload that image to WhatsApp, as you saw as well. So some nice functionality there to finish off the WhatsApp response. I'll do a different video on that where I go into that in a lot more detail. So to jump into the different agents then, so let's kick off with the research agent. Okay, here's our research agent. So we have the workflow input trigger. And as I mentioned, those kind of parameters that the newsletter director has to pass are defined here. We get date and time because we want to make sure every agent is aware of what time it is and what day it is. And then the settings here is a much more fleshed out kind of system prompt than for the research agent. Agents can figure out what to do with the tools if the tools are described well enough. So if we look at the tools down here, we have the fetch web page markdown. So this tool fetches a web page markdown via Gina AI. So the main agent is going to use the title of the tool and the description of the tool to kind of figure out what's going on. And here you can see that we're hitting the first of our 24 make automations, which is fetch and web page markdown. Now, this could easily have been done in N8N. All of the tools can be built in N8N. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. You probably should, actually. I already had them built on Make, so I wasn't going to start re-engineering everything. A really nice trick, I might do another video on this on Make as well, is when you create a webhook on Make, there's no authentication. Anyone can hit it if they know it. So you can actually pass authentication and then filter stuff out off the back of it. So it's a really nice trick. I'll do another video on that as well. So here then, we're just sending the URL. And then if the agent triggers that, it's just going to pass a URL that it deems needs to be fetched. And away it goes. And then from looking at the Google search tool, this tool is for Google search. It uses data for SEO in make.com. And then we're sending the body of what the search term should be and what the search type should be. And then finally, the property price register. This is the very specific one for real estate. And again, it kind of explains what it does. And again, explains what parameters need to be passed, i.e. just a physical address so that you can check the transaction prices for that area. So just to dive into some of these tools on the other side. So let's say fetch web page markdown. It's a really simple tool on make.com. All we're doing is we have a webhook, we're hitting the HTTP and we're outputting. Now, actually, we probably could have just built this directly in N8N. It doesn't need a make scenario at all. Let me come back in here. Yeah, I could have just used the HTTP request tool for this really because it's so basic. I could have just put in, HTTPS or.gina.ai and then whatever the URL is. But as you can see, that's what that's doing there. I've put in an ignore as well because sometimes it'll time out and you do want this workflow to end so that it's not hanging on the other side. So it's good to put in error handling on this side. So next up, this is the Google search via data for SEO. There is a native data for SEO module as well on Make. So a good reason to use Make here. It takes the webhook, it checks to see is an organic search needed or is a news search needed, and then it makes the API call, and then it outputs it then back through the webhook response, which then is ingested by the tools agent. So it's in and out, and if you look at, let's say, the history here, you can see all the successful runs. And if we jump in here, search term here was Dublin real estate market January 2025. They wanted news. This was the API auth key I was telling you about, and then it was able to hit the data for SEO service and get a full kind of response, which was then stringified in JSON and sent back through the webhook response. So that's how all of these work. It's webhook request in, do something, webhook response. And that's the research agent. And not a lot to it. Like there really isn't. Like these scenarios are simple, and the actual agents themselves are simple. So that one in particular, there's not a lot to it. Next up then, the writer agent. So again, a simple workflow input trigger. This time I think we're looking for URLs, URLs and background research. Then the writer agent, we have the prompt, which defines again in Markdown what the role is, the kind of example tasks. Then I go into the tone of voice. So this is where you can get it to write in your own tone of voice, using your writing style. So this is kind of like a short, snappy and witty kind of writer. Opinionated with a conservative stance that prioritizes return on investment, because this is a real estate newsletter. Be skeptical of hype and don't be overly optimistic. Have a step-by-step on how to write. I then provide example sentences that this person might use when generating content. So this is all good prompt engineering stuff on how to kind of train in inverted commas an AI on how to write in your style. Then what we do is those kind of parameters, those workflow parameters that are being sent by the newsletter director to the writer agent, we're putting them all in here. So now it's like a conversational template. Every time that the newsletter director speaks to the writer agent, it has to form kind of this structure. And so it's a nice way of kind of structuring chaos, these kind of conversational templates. So yeah, this is using Anthropic's chat model, Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The thing about memory as well is really interesting because the session ID, or like at the newsletter director level, where we have our session ID, which could be our phone number, let's say if it's WhatsApp, we're saving the memory at an agent level. So the newsletter director agent can remember his own stuff, but it's not global. Like the subscriber manager agent isn't aware of what the newsletter director agent is thinking or has thought. So they each have their own key or their own kind of repository of memories within the conversation history. And you can see that's there. That's, because we have dash writer. So this is the writer's memory. For researcher, it'll be dash researcher. And that way then when you say refine this text, it'll know what it wrote because it's still in its own conversational buffer. If it was a global memory, it would just get wild and out of control, and it would be huge, and it would cost a fortune to run it as well. So then the writer agent is simple. You've already seen the fetch web page markdown tool. The only other change you can make to this is actually make this a sequential agent or a recursive agent. So you could have another agent here. I was thinking about this, I didn't do it, but you could have another agent. And this could be, let's say, it doesn't need to be a tools agent, it could be a conversational agent. And let's say this could be your editor agent. And then the writer could pass it to the editor, which then could recursively loop it back to the writer and say, maybe do it 2 or 3 times. That way then the writer has to refine twice or 3 times based off kind of feedback from the editor before sending it back to the newsletter director. So that's probably a better approach of having a kind of a more structured feedback loop at a writer level, let's say. Because if you had just an editor agent as a sub-agent of the newsletter director, he might not call him 3 times every time, you know. So if you want a really structured approach, you do it that way. I didn't build it in here, but definitely a future video of mine, I'm going to do sequential agents in NLM. I've done them on Flowise, and they're super powerful. So then onto the publisher agent, you're kind of getting the hang of it at this point. So again, we have our message from the newsletter director, and then we just have a role. So the role here is to manage the creation of images, drafting and publishing of emails in the system. And again, we provide, I did find the need that I needed to provide more of a step-by-step on how to actually generate images and draft kind of emails. So it's an iterative process. It's not going to work first time when you try it. You're going to need to kind of keep refining. As any kind of prompt engineer will tell you, it's a constant case of refinement and evaluation. And then these tools are just calling make.com again. So there's a generate AI image one here. This uses Flux 1.1 Pro. And if I come back here, and there's our tool. So replicate Flux 1.1 image generation. And yeah, it's just hitting the replicate predictions. And actually, I'm doing something cool here in Make. I'm polling, which is hard to do in Make. It's not real polling, but I'm just doing a repeater. And then I'm setting a variable polling complete. I put in a delay of a few seconds. And then I just check to see is it ready. Because it's either that or you'd have to set up a webhook in another scenario. So it's just a different kind of design pattern in Make you can use. But it's a nice one. And then the ConvertKit stuff, this is draft a ConvertKit email. Again, hitting a different scenario. So this is the generate HTML and draft article on ConvertKit. This is using GPT-4o to generate the HTML for the email. So the email has already been written by the writer. The publisher just needs to put it into a HTML structure that ConvertKit can understand. So I've provided, instructions on what the responsibility is. When outputting HTML, use these tags. The opening line should greet the subscriber.firstname for the platform, which worked brilliantly. So it's dynamically populated by the system, and then only output in JSON with the HTML. I then got O1 Mini to generate an email subject and to generate the email preview text. The reason I used O1 Mini is that I need it to be 40 characters or around that. Kind of your more typical LLM non-chain of thought models just can't output the right number of characters. So you need some level of kind of reasoning to figure out whether it's the right number of characters or not. So O1 Mini works very well there. And then, yeah, we just create the Kit broadcast, just hitting the broadcast endpoint, passing the API key, which I'll refresh after this video. And yeah, you just fill out the content as per their API docs. So there's the template ID, content description, etc. So it's as easy as that, which is brilliant. Then the publisher ConvertKit email is using our agent safeguard. So it's broken into 2 different scenarios. So the AI agent is going to call this scenario to request the publication of the email. The first thing it does is it checks, does the broadcast exist? Because it's getting an ID from the newsletter director, which might be garbage. So it needs to verify it actually is a real broadcast. And if it is, it then saves it into a data store. The request type is to publish the email, pending approval, drop in the timestamp. We're putting in a random key. Alan has a video on how to build an agent safeguard. He uses a SHA-256, I think, as well. So that creates it, and then it pings us on WhatsApp, which you saw in the demo, asking you to confirm the publication. So click the follow link to approve, and it's using the publication workflow, which is essentially this workflow. It's the webhook for this workflow, but it's passing in the key as a query parameter. So then when you click that link on WhatsApp, it's going to ping this, and then it works its way through the data stores to figure out, is this a valid request? Has it timed out? Has it already been called? And if it's all still valid, it publishes it on ConvertKit, and it sends you an email, like you saw, to say it's now been published. Great, so that's the publisher agent. He doesn't have direct access to publish, but he can request it. And then in a similar vein, the social media agent is the same. So if we look at, let's say, the post to Facebook, all it's doing, describing the tool, hitting a particular workflow on make.com. This one is request publication and approve publication of the Facebook post. And it's the same idea. It's, this is what needs to be published. Save it to the data store, ask the user to approve it, and if it does, you go off and you publish it. So that's the same now for Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You should check out our second channel, Deep Dive with the AI Automators. Alan has created lots of tutorials on how to connect to every social platform, but not just for text. You can put up videos, put up images, image carousels, reels. So check out the link in the description to our deep dive channel. Then for the analytics agent, what we have here then, these are the ConvertKit specific ones, but if your email marketing system actually has an API to support these kind of functions, you could just swap them in and out. But they're all hitting make.com scenarios to fetch the data. If it was a very clean call, you could just hit ConvertKit directly. I think there might be a little bit of manipulation of the data if we jump into some of these, like get stats on all email broadcasts. Yeah, that's get email stats, transform to JSON and respond. Yeah, that could really be done in the tool itself, as could that actually. So yeah, I think we could probably tidy that up a little bit. No need for make scenarios in those cases. And probably the same then with the subscriber manager agent. That's the unsubscribe user from ConvertKit. There might be more to this because you might need to verify does the user exist before unsubscribing them. So it might need to be its own workflow or a make.com snenario. So that's all of the agents, and you've seen a lot of the make.com scenarios there as well. I'm not going through a full build on this just because I'll be here all week actually doing it. But there you can see a pretty detailed kind of overview of how those agents are structured and then all kind of corralled together within this single newsletter director agent. And then all of that then results in email broadcasts on ConvertKit. And so I'll leave a link for ConvertKit in the description below if you haven't heard of them or if you want to use them, you can check that out there. But you can see all of the emails. These are like test emails as I was building the system that I've created here. And when you dive in, like these are published because we've triggered the publishing on WhatsApp, but you can see the previews, and then all of the analytics that you see here is essentially what we are able to access via voice on WhatsApp. The monetization stuff is brilliant on ConvertKit. So if you click on Earn, you can upload products, there's tip jars, there's ebooks, there's subscriptions, there's so much. It's all using Stripe. So it's a great way of monetizing a list. And then you saw on Facebook the couple of posts that we actually triggered from WhatsApp. So that's the system. If you want to get access to the blueprints for make scenarios and for the N8N agents, then check out the link in the description to the AI Automators. It's run by myself and Alan. We're brothers who have been in kind of the IT space for decades. We've also built and scaled multiple businesses ourselves in the past. So we've got a lot of experience, and there's just a lot of kind of resources up here in terms of the system templates, the micro templates, which are now the agent tools. We have regular events that you can see here, a very kind of active general discussions board where myself and Alan are very active in responding to users and helping them get their automations up and running. Then we have courses. We're building out an AI agent course at the moment. But we have a make.com masterclass. I built a no-code web scraping and browser automation course, which I launched a few weeks ago. 26 lessons in that and lots of activities. So yeah, if you're looking to level up your skills, then definitely check out the link to the AI Automators. I hope you've enjoyed the walkthrough. It's been an experience building this out, and I'm so happy with the outcome. It's a system that really works, and you can have a proper back and forth with it and get stuff done, which is brilliant. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.